see something funny?
Well, do you?
Is this really happening?
What's up, comrades?
What's up, comrades?
I'm Lord Virgin Pecker.
And to all the trolls, I'd like to say fuck off.
Yeah, you stupid trolls. You don't know nothing about this life.
You don't know shit about this life.
Mom's gonna be so pissed you shot a hole in the wall.
It's time to take a stand. We can't just talk about it anymore. Talking is for the 3%ers. The 3%ers, all they do is talk.
3%ers actually have jobs.
And we know how to raise our kids right.
And they know how to load a gun properly.
And we will beat your skinny little ass.
We need to raise money to be able to build targets and to build hills.
And to buy new dildos.
And more Ed Hardy merchandise from Hot Topic.
It's not as easy as you think to put the clip in. I can't get it like I got it before.
I mean, really? Is it really that hard? Hold up. Safety first, kids. Get up, church.
Join that national group, and we will put you guys where you need to go.
So hop in your mom's minivan and grab your skateboards.
And don't forget your Capri Suns and your foam swords either.
You little anorexic lesbian-looking soldiers. Comrades.
So until next time, resist. We must always resist.
You guys suck. You are like ISIS.
Just the fuckboy version.
Hello everyone, I am your spirit guide and pathfinder for this episode, Runs with Great Fury. And I'll be going over a Paradise Lord Ryu meme that had a soldier yelling on a battlefield, and he was holding a shield that was covered in arrows, and the caption read, "Being a straight white male in 2018. Well, I then left a meme of an inbred Muslim Persian emissary from the movie 300 saying, "Our fake news will blot out the sun." And then this Spartan bro saying, "Then we will meme in the shade." And that's when this guy Dorain D comes through with the following. He says, "There is no such thing as anti-fuzz." That's a slur made up by right-wing media to insult people who actually oppose fascism rather than enabling it like the American right wing has. Now, before I jump straight in, I'm going to say this. This is like a really super uber long thread. So, for the sake of being brief, so I don't make 15 videos, because it kind of repeats and we get into religion toward the end. So I may skip to the end, so if it's a little choppy, whatever, okay, just there you go. I'll just tell you that we got an argument about, I said Paul was a disciple, big mistake, because he figures I mean 12 disciples, and I just meant disciple as in a follower of, like, excuse me. And so basically that was what our whole beef was, and he goes into how Paul was a misogynist and all this, and how he's don't belong in the Gospels because of this and that, and I was like, dude, really? So pretty much that's what it went down, as. And to me, that's totally illegitimate. That's like saying everybody in the Bible doesn't belong because they interpreted it their own way, even though they're supposedly led by the Holy Spirit, each and every one. It's like, you could say that about everybody in the Bible, but oh, he's misogynistic. Okay. And he tried to say that religions were communistic. No. There's a difference between sharing and being charitable and being a communist where the government forces you to share. So that's what we got into. So when I skip to the end, y'all will be contextually brought up to speed. Okay, so I say to them, LOL, anti-fascism is opposed to fascist ideologies, groups, and individuals. The anti-fascist movement began in a few European countries in the 1920s and eventually spread to other countries around the world. It was at its most significant during and just before World War II, where the fascist Axis powers were opposed by many countries, forming the Allies of World War II and dozens of resistance movements worldwide. Essentially, that is saying that the Allies were anti-fascist. So him saying they don't exist, I was like, what? And then Steve of the Unknown Kadesh, he has some good memes, but I got an issue with him sometimes. And Paradise or Lord Ryu is actually pretty cool, though. He's the one that left the original meme. Okay, so Steve of the Unknown Kadesh jumps in with, where anybody can write, or he says Wikipedia, where anybody can write anything, and the points mean even less. Why say to him, if I type on a fortune cookie message, 1 + 1 = 2, would it be wrong? I never said that Wikipedia was a scholarly citation or scholastic reference, which is what a lot of people will do. They'll, oh, Wikipedia, so learned, oh. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's an appeal to authority, but I'll get into that in a second. Because like I said, if I write it on a fortune cookie, is it wrong? Yeah, fortune cookie is about as scholastic as you're gonna get. It's dumb, like Magic 8 Ball levels of dumb. So, let's see. I told him I never said it was a scholastic reference. Steve of the Unknown Kadesh comes back with, nor did I claim you had. Wikipedia is the starting point for a research topic, not a legitimate source for backing up that argument. Okay, says who? If you go to the Wikipedia sources that they hyperlink and click those studies, bam, there's your finish point. So yeah, he's part right, but that he invalidated his own argument, his original argument. Then I said to him, translation, you were implying that my source of information is invalid, which is why you said that those points that I used mean even less. I'm illustrating that you were using relational aggression in an appeal to authority to delegitimize my factually accurate claim that Dorain is wrong. Dora. So Dorian D, see, I did it again. It's really difficult not to say Dorian instead of Dorain. Okay. So he pops up with Forgotten Fury, and there's no such thing as a group called Antifa. It's nothing but a hateful slur concocted by right-wing nutbars. Are you saying that supporting fascism is a good thing? Well, son of Kathy Strawman Newman, no, I'm not saying anything more or less than what I said. And no, fascism isn't a good thing. Okay? And with the straw man. Okay? And why do Antifas call themselves Antifas if their group doesn't exist? Okay, so he said that, and then I say, I'm saying that the Allies were anti-fascist in WW2. Bam. And he comes back and says, you can't, and I said I'm personally anti-fascist, anti-feminist, and anti-socialist. And then I say, sorry, Kate, Dora, will we be friends now, please? And then he says, you can't be anti-socialist and anti-fascist at the same time. And then I come through and say, wrong answer. I'm a free market capitalist Republican bordering on anarcho-capitalist and libertarian. Yours truly is opposed to socialism, fascism, totalitarianism, authoritarianism, economic and political globalism. Observe the following historian's quote. Should you need a big brother, Dora, I got you. That historian says, the diversity of political entities that share only anti-fascism has prompted the historian Newman Davies to argue in his book Europe at War 1939 to 1945, No Simple Victory, that anti-fascism does not offer a coherent political ideology. Rather, that it is an empty vessel. Davies further asserts that the concept of anti-fascism is a mere political dance. Alright, mere political dance. Created by Joseph Stalin, to spread the Soviet propaganda organs in an attempt to create the false impression that Western democracies, by joining the USSR in the opposition to fascism, could in general align themselves with political communism. Okay? So, just so we're clear, they're saying, firstly, incorrectly, Mr. Davies is right about all of that, okay? Saying, basically trying to lump us in with communism, alright, which is wrong. But, okay, it's a false dichotomy. But here's the thing, which Joseph Stalin tried to pull off, alright? But here's the thing, because we teamed up with USSR against him. Okay, and that doesn't mean we're commies. Okay, so here's the thing. We are not a democracy. I'll get into this a little bit later. The very definition of republic entails specifically representation. Look up democracy and they won't say socialism, stealing your money, or mob rule. What they'll say is representation. But if you look up the historical definition, it doesn't say anything about that. So they just changed it around. It's like when people run around going, oh, literally, and they mean figuratively. That's what they're doing with democracy. So if you hear someone say democracy, I'm about to get all into it. The founding fathers hated democracy. Plato hated democracy. I hate mob rule of democracy. The thieving and the lying, the Robin Hoodism. Nah. And so we are not a democracy, okay? If anyone says we are, they're a liar and a thief. Or they're very, very ignorant and maliciously so, because they could easily look into it. They've heard the word republic. Look it up. Just look it up. Okay, so I went on that big spiel to Dorain. Then I additionally said I may turn our discussion into a YouTube video. Then I asked him if he's a boy or a girl. He never answered. You cannot. And then he says to me, you cannot be anti-fascist and anti-socialist. False. That's what the capitalistic World War II veterans were from America. They were okay, so they were capitalist and anti-fascist. And capitalism is anti-socialist, just for the record. Republicanism is fascism, he says, and wrong. And socialist countries are the biggest proponents or opponents to fascism around the world. Wrong again. This isn't your grandpappy's socialism. My grandpappy was no Robin Hood thief, a coyote posing as a wolf. This is very real, he says, and very free democratic socialism. Okay, well that's redundant. That's like saying this is thievery, or this is the mob rule of large groups. Okay, so I say to him, I could just hug you and love you and mentor you all the time. I said that to Dorain, or Dorain D. A gentleman named Professor Hank provides one of the most insightful analyses of the Founding Fathers and their documents that I've ever read. Instead of considering the Founders' documents within our present views, biases, and prejudices, he focuses on their essential original meaning. He says, many will be shocked to learn that the word democracy was neither used in the Declaration of Independence nor in the Constitution. Indeed, the Founding Fathers were anxious and fearful of any form of tyranny, including the tyranny of the majority found in democracy. Boom, bam, boom. Democrat Party, I'm looking at you. Socialism, I'm looking at you. Women who don't register for selective service and primarily benefit from affirmative action, which only Caucasian men don't receive, which means we fund it. I'm looking at you. You are Democrat thieves. And I used to steal things to survive, okay? And I still don't like thieves, because I would never steal from people, which is what you all are doing. And I was a child, and I stopped as soon as I could. What's your excuse? You don't have one, or if you do, you don't use it. You know, it's like there isn't one for an adult. A constitutional republic, he goes on, is a state in which the head of state or other officials are representatives of the people and must govern within an existing constitution. In a constitutional republic, executive, legislative, and judicial powers may be separated into distinct branches. Okay, the definition of fascism is thus. It is a form of radical authoritarian nationalism, characterized by dictatorial power, forcible suppression of opposition, and control of industry and commerce, which came to prominence in the 20th century in Europe. A right-wing dictatorship, conversely, sometimes referred to as a rightist dictatorship, is an authoritarian, sometimes totalitarian, regime whose policy can be called rightist. There are various definitions of rightist, which he's also calling Republican. Dorain is Dorain. The broadest definition of rightist being all dictatorships, meaning a rightist dictatorship, that do not consider themselves communists. So we have capitalist on the right, communist on the left. All right. 2 C's. 3 C's if you want to call it centrist, but they're going to flop one way or the other on any given issue, so I don't count that. Those are usually pro-capitalist in economic matters and conservative in ideological ones. Bam. The Democratic Fascist Party, it was a Italian fascist political party. Okay? Totalitarian, so they do exist, all right? Democratic Fascist Party. That's their name, okay? So you can't tell me they don't exist. Totalitarian democracy or anarcho-monarchism is a term popularized by Israeli historian J.L. Talmon to refer to a system of government in which lawfully elected representatives maintain the integrity of a nation-state whose citizens, while granted the right to vote, have very little or no participation in the decision-making process of the government. The phrase had previously been used by Bernard de Genoble and someone else, and so someone else. Okay, so basically, we're almost in a, what do you call it, totalitarian democracy as it is. Because if you check out the American Anti-Corruption Act and the Represent.us webpage, or just look at my alt MGTOW request video, you'll see that corporations control us far more than voters do. So we're almost in a democratic, what do you call it, democratic totalitarian government already. So Dorain D says to me, and yet we are a democratic constitutional republic that has mostly democratic elections. Go fig. And don't you Republicans ever forget that. Well, here's the thing, I haven't forgot it. They bus in plenty of illegal immigrants to vote Democrat, and that's the mob rule that I hate. So I didn't forget it. And we are not. Look it up. Why does it never say democracy in the Constitution? Tell me that. Okay, because you're wrong. Okay. And then Kova Redo Red Row jumps in with the only good Antifa is a dead one. And then Dorain D says, no such thing as Antifa. We already covered that. It's roughly equivalent to saying that all goat-fucking Republicans need to die. He's standing in a republic saying this, by the way. It's a, look up Democratic Man. Democratic Man and Dorain D and the local woman voter all say the same thing. Plato was right about them. The only thing Plato was wrong about is that man can be his own philosopher king, so we don't need one over us. That's the only thing I think he was wrong about pertaining to that. And maybe he was just being skeptical or whatever, and he believed it too. Whatever. But okay, he basically says that Dorain says that's a straw man, but that's actually incorrect. Kova Redrow says to Dorain, well, whoever those communist supporting dumb fucks are, basically. Okay. And then I say to Dorain, the U.S. Constitution never mentioned any democracy, only a republic. This is the only empirically supported position. You can't find any empirical evidence elsewhere. It's all conjecture. The rest is embellishment, as Kova Redrow himself illustrated. I get where you're coming from, Dora the Destroyer. I really, truly do. I simply love truth and liberty with economic freedom. I know that you feel the same way, or I hope you do. My most recent upload entitled Alt MGTOW Request video goes over that subject in pretty great detail. Now, the definition of a republic is as follows. A form of government in which power is explicitly vested in the people, who in turn exercise their power through elective representatives. Today, the terms republic and democracy are virtually interchangeable, but historically the two differed. Okay, so when people say literally, they mean figuratively, and we are having a question as to what do they mean. Do we default to A, the historical meaning of the word, or B, what it's used for in slang? If you answered history, you are correct. If you answered slang, you are incorrect because the slopes are oh so slippery. Too slippery for traction. So I said to him, or no, he said to me, YouTube isn't a reliable source of information. We are still classified as a democratic constitutional republic. See? And we are, like I said, look them up, you'll see it. And he says we are losing the financial battle. Social democracies are all doing much better in terms of finances, freedom, and liberty than we are. Time for us to change. Get rid of the corrupt, abusive two-party system. Two choices is not enough when it comes to our rights, freedoms, and protections. I say to him, we have more than two parties, Dora. What about the Green Party, Libertarian Party, or the Independent Party? Look, the source material in the YouTube video's description box is the reliable material to which I pointed. I'm not treating you with kid gloves, which are when I was your age, I had a set of balls. I wasn't raised by a single mother, but my lazy wimp of a single father was. Stop being an intellectually dishonest, lazy socialist, Dora. I already illustrated that retarded Democrat Party voters willingly conflate democracy and representation, although representation is the cornerstone of any republic. We have $127 trillion in unfunded liabilities, okay? We are losing the economic battle, yes, because we have had a socialist female voting majority who's immune to conscription for almost 100 years. Only men are required by law to register for selective service. Only Caucasian men don't receive affirmative action. Ergo, only Caucasian men have any merit in the workplace, and only men should be able to vote. The Socialist Democrat Party commies who love to punch a Nazi willfully ignore the fact that that Nazi is shorthand for National Socialist German Workers' Party. As soon as women got the right to vote in Germany, without being eligible for conscription, mind you, they started prohibition, as they did here in America, and they elected Hitler. And look at their voting patterns. Sounds familiar, huh? What do you think about that, Dorain the Destroyer? And then he says, third parties are just that, third parties with no chance of getting into power. Having their voices means nothing if those voices can never be heard in the halls of power. We have a completely corrupt two-party system and it needs to be changed fast before America rips itself apart. P.S. Social Democrat does not equal commie, twit. Social democracy is the single most prevalent governing system in the world and the most fair, the most free, and also the most lucrative. 85% of social democracies are in much better shape financially than the corporate capitalist United States is. What do you think about that, Forgotten Fury and the Fascist? So I say to him, when you said to me social democrat does not equal commie, twit, you were wrong. I get it, pride may be an issue here, but the author of the Communist Manifesto himself said that democracy is the road to socialism. And many others, including myself, as the least among them, have illustrated that the economic tenets of socialism lead directly to communism. This is why Plato in his book The Republic described the hedonistic tendencies of the democratic man, as Plato called him. You are arguing with Karl Marx, not with me, pertaining to the relationship between democracy, socialism, and communism. Redrow called it earlier. I do agree with you, Dorain the Destroyer, pertaining to our de facto two-party system, which isn't good for citizens. I'd like to vote for a libertarian or an independent party candidate myself. I told you that I'm against authoritarianism and totalitarianism, or fascism, as you call it, Dorain, forcing people to pay up for other people, to force men to register for selective service and not women, to give all people but Caucasian men affirmative action employment, which is our source of life. These things are all democratic fascism, or as I like to call it, socialistic, anti-meritocratic extortion. You are wrong, Karl Marx is your predecessor, and Kova Redrow is correct about Antifa. in this day and age, in direct opposition to the anti-fascist allies of World War II. But I disagree with him on his statement that the only good Antifa is a dead Antifa, because I am against fascism and also socialism, which is stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. Democratic socialism being itself 2 steps away from communism, just like Karl Marx said. Venezuela is in collapse under the power of their longest running Communist Party of Venezuela, their longest running party, which Caucasian men abolished slavery, and every other race still has slaves today, and more than we ever did. Most countries, as you point out, Dora the Destroyer, are socialist countries. Most of them also have slaves, okay, including Venezuela and Mexico. Alright, and every other country you're pretty much going to mention. He'll mention Sweden. I don't know if I'll have time to get to it, probably not. But he'll mention Sweden. They're the rape capital of the Western world because they want to import all these brown Muslims because the white women stopped having kids because they're all working on their careers. And so it's the same around the world. Okay, socialism is destruction. Okay, and then I go over the global slavery index. Find me a socialist country and look at the global slavery index and just tell me that I don't believe in coincidence. And then the global slavery map also, if you want to do it quick style. So I asked him, what do you think about that, Dora the Destroyer? I think... Okay, so I told him I think that I'm going to stand for the 21st... I'm not going to stand for the 21st century Robin Hood to steal from me while I'm already poor. Women and colored people have no merit in the workplace because only Caucasian men don't receive affirmative action. Only men should be able to vote because only men register for selective service. Furthermore, capitalism is production and socialism is theft. Alright, if that's all you get from this, realize that last sentence and realize that republicanism or a republic entails representation. We are not a democracy. If you're a Republican, been having to put up with it, you have to put up with it no more. Dorain D says, no, Twit, you're wrong. Social democracy isn't communism, not even close. Okay, so if you look them all up, he's technically right. But like I said, they're a few steps away from one another. 95% of Western nations are social democracies, including this one, because we got the mob rule from the Mexicans and the women who give nothing and take everything, run all our rich people out of the country, and I need those rich people to give me a freaking job. And they are all more free, more liberated, and for the vast majority of them, they're better off financially. False. Most of those countries are smaller than us. I actually go into the numbers. Okay. Let me skip ahead. Okay, and I just, he says capitalism is another word for slavery to corporations. Okay, socialism is slavery to corporations too, though. And the government. It's all slavery if you want to start conflating, buddy. Alright, so I'm about out of time here. But I go over Sweden has just as much debt, and if you calculate for size, it's more. What else do I go? Okay. Socialism is halfway between communism and capitalism. We went into that church thing I mentioned a minute ago. And basically, he's just saying, oh, you know, capitalism is bad. But I'm saying to him, socialism is worse. It's killed way more people. Alright, I suppose that'll be the end of it. Remember the definition of republic, okay? It entails representation. Catch you in the next one. Bye.